Welcome to Safe Spaces and Green Spaces, a special segment of the Daily Parks and Rec Show, where we explore mental health, well-being, and the positive impact parks and recreation have on building stronger, healthier communities. Hosted by Thomas White, join us every first Wednesday of the month at 1:30 p.m. Eastern for inspiring conversations, real stories, and practical insights that help create safe places for everyone. In this episode, we discuss the importance of creating safe, supportive workplaces in parks and recreation. Our guests share insights on mental health, workplace culture, managing stress, and fostering environments where people feel valued, heard, and empowered to thrive.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Safe Spaces and Green Spaces, the place where we talk about real mental health issues in the parks and rec world, how we can all face them together and create safe spaces for our teams to work. Today, we have a lot of special guests, but before we get into it, I don't think you've seen any of them on this show yet. But before we get into it, I want to go and talk about our other shows. Jovi, can you put them up? These are all the shows here with DPRS Media Network. The Leadership Series, of course, is every day at 12 p.m. except for Fridays with Craig, the Doorman LeBlanc. This is the very first show that got everything started. Of course, we've got the Parks and Tech Collective on Mondays, followed by Smart Parks Forward with Outdoor Link, one of the great sponsors of DPRS Media. And then easily the most put together show that we have on the network, Tuesdays at 1:30, is On the Front Line with John Prue, talking about all the different things that the military rec goes through every day and the wonderful work that they're doing to keep our troops happy and morale high. And then, of course, we've got Beatrice with Arts and Parks and Rec. That is one of the new shows, and it's a spin that we're always curious about. She comes on right after my show at 3 p.m. This is our first time that we're doing Safe Spaces and Green Spaces for second episode of the month, and that's the third Wednesday. Then, of course, we've got the Youth Sports Mastery with Aaron Locks and the Young Professionals Network, again with Craig LeBlanc. And I believe one of the guests that we're about to have on here has been on the Young Professionals Network. I could be wrong. And then Friday, ending the week with some of the best shows that we have. That's Director Pepper Social Club with Jonathan Papa J. Skinner and The Aquatics Life with Wesley King. So make sure you tune in to all that we have going on. And in just a moment, I'm going to be introducing our great guest, but let's take it to the promos first. Let's pay some bills.
This episode is brought to you by SDSU's Sports MBA program. If you're passionate about sports and want to work in the women's sports industry, then this is the time to pay attention. SDSU's program is 12 months accelerated hands-on learning where students have actually gotten to work with teams like the San Diego Mojo, partnered with the Farmers Insurance Open, and visited headquarters like the Upper Deck or Callaway Golf. It's built for people who want to be in rooms like that. So if you're interested, deadlines are approaching. Learn more or apply with the links in the description.
All right. Welcome back, everybody. Sorry. I thought there was one more promo. Didn't realize we were back that soon. So let's introduce the people that we have here. First, let's start from Cobb Parks, the largest parks and rec in the state of Georgia. Veronica, tell us who you are. Tell us what you do.
Hello, everyone. Yes, my name is Veronica Duarte. I work with Cobb County Parks Rec. I specifically work here at the Maple House Arts Center, which is a cultural affairs. So we focus on visual and performing arts. I oversee the programming, which includes adult classes, youth classes, as well as our art gallery. So I'm always on the search for community artists who would like to be on display.
Wow, wow. So I knew that you were doing some with the arts program up at Cobb, but I didn't know that you guys were diving that deep into the art gallery. We need to have you on our fine arts show. That
Yeah,
in fact comes on immediately after this show.
I didn't know you guys had that channel, so I'm really, really interested to take part.
Definitely, definitely. So I met Veronica randomly at a GRPA workshop, no, a GRPA roundtable that we had at Mount Carmel here in Henry County. I think I was helping facilitate the roundtable, and I mentioned a podcast. She came up after and talked to me afterwards, and I wound up putting her in contact with Craig, and she wound up hosting several of the episodes at GRPA conference.
Yes, that is true. That is true. And hey, if you guys want to do it again, you got my contact.
Definitely, definitely. That's why you're here with us today. And now, a person, as he says in his tagline, he's been here a while. Of course, I am referring to the legendary Brian Dixon.
Hey guys, my name is Brian Dixon. I'm the Deputy Administrator of Park Services here in Henry County. I oversee all the parks renovations, and I have about 40 to 50 full-time staff members that report to me daily. And I'm down here in my safe place, Thomas, if you can tell.
Gotcha. The Brian is in us. I'm really happy to have him on this episode because Brian just graduated with his bachelor's degree in communications or business management. Which one did you wind up getting?
Business management.
Business management. Gotcha. Your mic's going out just a tad because of the connection, but we're hearing you for the most part though. So, all right. And then of course we have someone that has never been on a podcast. She's never been heard on the Daily Parks and Rec show. She's not even someone that I've randomly brought on, as I do often with Dakota, Kosia, and Paige. And this is her third summer interning with us. Not really interning this summer. This summer you're working with a camp with us, and that is a future pre-med student who has decided that she wants nothing to do with Parks and Rec, despite what I'm saying to her. 17-year-old Savannah Keller. Savannah, introduce us.
Hey.
Tell us about you.
Oh, I don't know. I've been working here for 3 years. I work a lot at the Heritage Park location for our camps, and I work a lot with the kids, specifically 9 through 11-year-olds for the most part. Love working here.
Awesome. Thank you, Savannah. She usually talks so much and then barely spoke at all just then. No, I'm joking. Savannah, I'm texting your mom right now and telling you you're live on LinkedIn and Facebook. So expect her to be watching in just a minute. Literally have your mom on my phone right now. But that being said, this is the point of today's show. We talk about mental health in the workplace, parks and recreation. Something that I have noticed is that we have a higher number of neurodivergent staff than maybe other fields. And I think that is because it appeals to our sense of needing constant stimulation. Parks and Rec does that. I am neurodivergent myself. Savannah is on here because she's really interested in the medical aspect of that. And I'll let her tell a little of her story later. I would love y'all's opinion, though. I know Brian is so good about creating a space where his staff feels like he could come to them. And I think that's why we've seen such a shift in our park maintenance coming from people that just cut grass. And that's in Henry County, people that are not, they don't look at themselves as just people that cut grass, like is so often the stereotype in park maintenance. They look at themselves as Parks and Rec professionals. Brian, how do you create that environment?
I mean, there's just so many layers to that. I mean, I think it starts with like a new hire when you walk in the door. I think the group has to be extremely welcoming. I think someone has to take an interest and not just in what we're doing here at work, but what's your family like? What's your kids like? Do you have a girlfriend? Do you like to fish? Do you like find out what their interests are? And then just build off of that, and then not necessarily ruling with an iron fist, so to speak, I mean, there's definitely a line in the sand, but explaining things to people, having a true democracy here when we're talking about hot topic issues, bouncing ideas around the room, just trying to remain as open as possible to people, and then keeping in mind that, we only see it from 8 hours a day. What they're dealing with outside of work could definitely impact what they're doing at work. So, I try to take a personal interest in my staff, make sure that, everything's going on well with their family, because if I want them to perform top tier here, then I need everything outside of here to be in top tier shape also, for them to be the best version of themselves.
Right, right, right. That's pretty deep, and I'm curious before we get too far in the conversation, and I really do want to go back down into that, Brian, but I want to know what Veronica's thinking. And Savannah, I'm coming to you next, so start getting your thoughts ready. So Veronica, somebody up in Cobb County, you're on the opposite side of the metro from us, largest parks department in the state, or one of the largest parks departments in the state. Your thoughts on what Brian just said?
Yeah, I completely agree with Brian. And honestly, like it's in the name, safe spaces. Like we are in charge of making sure that the people who we are working with, or the people who we are overseeing or collaborating with, feel heard, feel seen, but also allowing them that space, because you also don't want to be like too much hovering or too much checking up on them, because sometimes that could make someone feel a little unsure, like I'm not sure if they're trusting me, why do they keep questioning me. So it is very important for us to, like Brian said, find our common ground, find those conversation starters, even if it does mean not talking about work, having those conversations of like, what's your favorite show, did you watch the game, what did you think. All of that information helps us build a better connection and start that relationship of trust and safe.
Definitely, definitely, yeah. All right, Savannah, 17 years old, first time on a podcast. Let's hear your thoughts here.
Well, my answer isn't that much different from theirs. I really like what they were both saying about it. Yeah, I feel that here and in general, it's so important to be able to be yourself, be able to express yourself, really feel like you're able to share your life with the people you work with, because hey, you're there most of the time.
Yeah.
So, and I feel that when I work here, it's a great environment.
Yet you don't want to do Parks and Rec. You want to go to medicine. Yes. Okay.
I'm sorry.
Yes. So Savannah,
Change her mind.
right? I'm trying, man. I've been trying for 3 years. In fact, I told her this morning, we were driving to one of the rec centers. I told her this morning, I'm not giving up on convincing you not to do this.
He's been trying since I was like
literally 14 years old. You were 14 years old, I think. Wow. Yeah. All right. So let's dive into this first. So I want everybody to be really unfiltered. This is going to be really important for what I'm about to ask you. And this is getting to the premise I'm setting up for the rest of the show. It's going to be really important. Savannah, I'm going to talk with you because you are just now entering the workforce. All you've ever had is a part-time job. You're about to go. What are you looking for in a job?
Well, that's a
surface off the top of your head, whatever pops in your mind right now. And if the answer is I don't know, that's fine. So tell me what you're looking for in a job.
Well, it's definitely a very packed question. Of course, I want to do something that I enjoy doing, because if you're passionate about what you do or love what you do, you aren't going to get as mentally drained. So like, I love what I do here. I love what I want to do. So that's like number one important. After that, I find it's important to have like reliable people you can report to, like no out to get you going on, like just being able to have that stability. And yeah, for the most part, the rest gets to move around a bit, I guess, but being able to be comfortable where you're at, have reliable people there, and love what you do.
Right. So I want you to really keep in mind something that you just said, the word drained. Remember that, because we're going to come back to that. All right, so let's go to Veronica. Veronica, I don't know how long you've been out of college, but it couldn't be that long. You're in your 20s.
Yes.
Tell us your thoughts. What are you looking for in a workplace? And there's a part 2 to your question.
Okay. As soon as you said that word, when you directed it to Savannah, the term that popped into my head was happiness. And, that could be subjective. Like, you can define that in any way, like whatever makes you happy. But with my current job specifically, what makes me really happy about being here is the fact that I have a great team that supports me, that they communicate very well. So that makes me feel good. And also just the actual duties that I do is like providing these programs for my community. So that makes me happy because I'm making other people happy.
Gotcha. So part 2 now, you talk about the happiness. Now talk about all the jobs you've ever had. Have you always had happiness in those jobs? Tell us about the evolution that got you to where you're at now.
Yeah, absolutely. So I started off as a seasonal counselor through summer camps, and I fell in love with the environment. Everyone was so friendly. There were moments where I was a little frustrated because maybe the campers didn't want to do the activity I've planned. Like, when you're so passionate and you're like so thinking and like putting so much love and care into these like lesson plannings, and then for the kid to like crush that and be like, I don't want to do this. It's like, that hurts. But besides that, it made me look for a role that was more permanent because the camp counselor role was only seasonal. So I was only working for June and July, the summer only.
Right.
And then a part-time position opened up as a rec specialist. I think at the time they were called, I think it was like a recreation leader. But there were moments where I felt frustrated too. Maybe the patron wasn't happy. Maybe they really wanted a refund on one of the classes. So I did face a few struggles there, but again, it was the team that would uplift me, the work, our goal, whether we were putting on a special event or a free program for the kids. And then from there, I moved over to special events. And like you mentioned, Cobb County is one of the biggest, parks and rec here in Georgia. We're number 3, the third largest. And with that, we face with so many people with special events. We are putting on these free activities, dealing with vendors, food trucks, entertainment. So there was some frustrating moments there too with lack of communication. Maybe the person I'm trying to contact wasn't getting back to me. And I will admit, when I was over there and I left the Mabel House, I was feeling kind of lost.
Mm-hmm.
And then eventually the position that I'm currently in right now opened up, and I was like, I have to go back. I really have to go back. Like I was missing something in special events that I used to have and I didn't have at the time when I was over there.
Wow. Okay. Thank you so very much.
Yeah.
I really want you to focus on something that you just said. You talked about moments of stress. So be thinking about that. That's going to tie into what I have Savannah remembering. I promise I'm coming up with a point to this. I promise. Brian is in his early 60s. He is definitely in a different generation than all of us. No, Brian, I'm just joking. Brian is not in his early 60s, just for everybody. He's in his 40s. So, Brian, your thoughts first. What do you look for in a workplace? I know your work history, and so I know it's going to be interesting when we get to that part. Tell us first what you look for in a workplace, ideally.
I look for structure, discipline, and a strong culture. I think without accountability, organizations fall apart. Without accountability, communication falls to the wayside. So for me, it's got to be the accountability piece. They got to be well organized, structured, disciplined, and it's got to feed my soul, man. Like I've had other jobs that have fell in my lap, but none of them really kind of grabbed me like this profession grabs me.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Got it. All right. Now, tell us about your evolution. Have you always been happy in the workplace? how did you get to where you're at now? I promise I have a reason that I'm asking this.
You're asking me if I've
Yes,
always been happy in the workplace?
that is precisely what I'm asking. And I'm asking for a reason. I'm asking for a reason. This is all going to come together in just a minute. So, Brian, feel free to tell the truth of your story.
No, I have not always been happy in the workplace.
You don't say. You don't say.
Yeah, I would say that there are great moments. So when it's good, it's good. When it's bad, it's bad. I try to live somewhere in the middle, if that makes sense.
It does. It does.
With what I do, there's so many different moving parts. There's so many different phone calls. There's so many last minutes. It's hard to stay positive all the time. But I think the older I've gotten, I know when to show that face, when not to show that face. You know, like my staff will never see me in that state of mind. That's typically reserved for the lawnmower at home. I'll get on there and drive it for a few hours, you know. But it's impossible. It's impossible when you're dealing with people. People are so unpredictable. You know, it's hard to stay positive when the phone rings and someone's, you know, fussing at me about the time of year that I chose to renovate a park, you know, or something like that, you know. So yeah, I've been frustrated before.
Gotcha. All right. So you are in a place now to where you are creating an environment for other professionals. You have a large staff that you are overseeing. Savannah being in an intern type position, she's a camp counselor now. She is at the bottom of that level. Veronica, you're in the middle as a coordinator. So we've got three different levels here. Brian, I want you to think back to your early 20s, late teens, your first job. What was your first job, Brian?
Well, I
First
started
job out of
working.
high school. Let me clarify. First full-time job out of high school.
Well, okay. Well, to be clear, I started working when I was probably 13 or 14 years old.
Yeah, first full-time job outside of high school.
First full-time job out of high school, working at a self-service gas station. So probably the last gas station in my hometown that was full service, and I would stock shelves and pump gas, check oil, clean windshields, all that stuff.
Man, it's crazy what they had y'all do back in the 60s.
Yeah.
No, I'm joking. All right, what was the next job? I'm going someplace with this. What was the next job? You're muted.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
My next job was working as a in the special needs room at our local high school. I worked there in the severe and profound room with alcohol fetal syndrome, cerebral palsy, Down syndrome, et cetera, et cetera. That's about the time that they started mainstreaming special needs kids into regular classrooms.
Gotcha. What'd you do next?
I did that for a while, bounced around at a couple of schools, and then I jumped into the Parks and Rec game down in South Georgia, and that was the kind of the first time that I ever worked for parks or a park system was in South Georgia.
In Valdosta, Georgia, right?
Correct.
Gotcha. I'm pretty sure you
were Volleson Park.
Gotcha. Yeah, I think we lived in Valdosta at the same time. We just didn't know each other at the time. So
I don't know. Right. I don't know. I'm 60 years old. You tell me.
Hey, I think I have more gray in my beard than you do right now, so I need to stop. All right, and I have no hair on the top of my head. All right, so the reason that I'm asking this, Brian, all these jobs that you worked, can you pinpoint which ones in which you felt like mentally and emotionally you could be yourself? Any of those early jobs?
No, not at all. No, because I think. Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I just think at like at Savannah's age, I think that you're just trying to fit in, and you're just trying to figure out what your role is in the organization that you happen to be working at.
Yeah. And that ties in perfectly to what I was going to say about Savannah's thing. So, Brian, you're in a role now to where you do not have to mask. And we're going to get to that in just a second. Savannah, you mentioned the word, you
Drain.
did did you mention masking? Is that the word I told you to? No, drain.
Yeah, mine was drained.
Drained. And so this is my theory. I feel like we are so drained when we're working that everyone has some degree of mental health issue that they deal with. Everyone does. There's no one that doesn't. It's a spectrum of mental health, just like there's a spectrum of physical health. And I'm not talking about the autism spectrum. I mean, just the general spectrum. Just like there's a general spectrum of physical health, there's a general spectrum of mental health. And everyone has something that they deal with. But I think something that I've noticed with the neurodivergent is when you are out in the world and you don't feel comfortable, you mask to fit in. You mask to fit in. And that masking drains you. And now Veronica mentioned some of the stressors that no matter how happy she was in her job, the stressors were always there. There were certain things that she dealt with that were always there. And those stressors, they ate away at her no matter how happy that she was. They were still there. But at the end of the day, she was still happy. Veronica, did you necessarily, when you had those stressors, did you go home exhausted? Or did you, at the end of the day, you still thought, hey, that was a pretty good day, I'm still happy? Your thoughts on that?
Honestly, it really depended on what the stress was. I will admit there were some days where it did follow me home. It caused me to I really need a break. Like I had to treat myself. I love treating myself with like a little iced coffee, a little ice cream, just trying to find things to like uplift my spirits. But most of the times, like I always find myself like, okay, tomorrow's another day. I can put this aside and enjoy just being at home and not letting things affect me.
Right. And so the difference, I think, between the stressors, like you said, and then the drain that Savannah's talking about, at the end of the day, you're able to finally let the mask down. But you're exhausted because you have forced your body and your mind to work in a way it literally is not developed to work in. And I'm speaking just from the perspective of someone that's neurodivergent. I have ADHD. It's an underdevelopment of the prefrontal cortex, So I mask. I am often called a chameleon because no matter what situation I'm in, I can fit into. And now Brian has seen me at conferences where all day long I'll be on, but then I'll disappear for 3 or 4 hours. And no one will know where I'm at, except Brian's learned by now. I'm usually in my hotel room and I'm usually asleep because it just drains me so much, no matter how well I know the people, because it's a mask I'm keeping up. What I am trying to show is on this show is that there is a difference between the stressors that you deal with every day, because there are, no matter what job you're going to have stressors, and then being forced to keep up a mask that you can't be yourself. You can't express yourself how you want to express yourself. You can't deal with those emotional and mental issues that are constantly plaguing you because you have to wear this mask, and it builds up that cortisol steroid, that stress hormone that is causing you to be exhausted at the end of the day, and it's affecting more than your life. It keeps you from being creative and innovative because you have to keep this mask up. You can't be yourself. That is the difference between the common stressors, and that's what I'm wanting to show with this show. We're going to talk about that right after our break. Let's go ahead, Jovi, and do our half-hour break because it's a good place to stop.
In today's parks and recreation industry, communication, safety, and efficiency go hand in hand. That's where Outdoor Link comes in, delivering smart technology that empowers city departments and community planners to do more, smarter. Outdoor Link's platform connects and automates everything that keeps your parks running smoothly, from lighting and locks to signage, water features, Wi-Fi, and digital advertising. Control and schedule park lights for safety and energy savings. remotely manage facility access, coordinate fountains and splash pads, provide public connectivity, all from one simple, unified platform, giving you real-time control, data, and cost efficiency. For parks and recreation agencies, that means safer spaces, smarter resource use, faster responses, and stronger community engagement. And behind every great park story is great infrastructure. That's why Outdoor Link proudly supports DPRS Media Company, helping the Daily Parks and Rec Show amplify the voices of professionals shaping our communities every day. Outdoor Link, smart, connected solutions for parks, recreation, and beyond.
They say it's just rec. Just rec, where kids learn to try again. Just rec, where confidence begins. Where teamwork, effort, and fun matter more than trophies. It's not about perfection. It's about participation. It's not just rec. It's where kids learn to love the game and themselves. It's just rec until they learn teamwork for life. It's just rec, but it's everything to them. It's more than rec. It's a movement. It's just rec until you realize it's shaping the next generation. Together, we're not just running programs, we're building a culture of confidence, connection, and community. Join us.
All right, welcome back, everybody. Let's jump straight in. So we left talking about the difference between masking and that drain that you feel when you get home from work and you've masked all day versus when you get home and you've just had a stressful day. Those are two different types of energies, and that's what I'm trying to really get at. I worked at a prison for 13 years. I was the acting chief security at the High Max prison in Georgia right before I left to come here to Parks and Recreation. I had to mask there was no other way around it. As you can see, my bubbly personality is not exactly what you would find typical in the prison system. Whenever someone meets me, they're like, I don't believe that you worked at the prison. In fact, I am pretty sure Brian actually has one of my former officers on his crew. And I am pretty sure he didn't necessarily believe me 100% until that officer started working for him. But it's just a lot of masking every day. No matter the type of environment and the type of supervisors that you have to mask. And I hated every day working with the Department of Corrections. And I know that's an extreme example. There are very few correctional officers that are going to be, and especially very few that are going to be in Parks and Recreation. But when I moved to Parks and Recreation, my first supervisor in Parks and Recreation, our director, JP, he told me, I don't care when you work. I don't care when you come in, as long as you get the job done and get me what I need. And I've taken that to the extreme. I have probably the world's most flexible schedule. Even as I've moved up in the ranks and everything, I've kept with that. But my life is completely different now. I would say that I am busier now throughout the day and after hours than I ever was at the Department of Corrections, because once you left the prison, the work ended. There was no taking the work home with you. Parks and Recreation, that's definitely not the case. Anyone that worked in Parks and Recreation will tell you that it's not a 9-to-5 job. It happens at all times. But I am 100 times happier working with Parks and Rec than I am now. And it's not because of the difference in the stress, because I'm probably more stressed than I've ever been, but I'm happier because I can be myself. And those are two strong examples. And that's why I'm bringing on people onto this show that are in different spots in their lives, because obviously I have a strong example showing the difference between a mental health safe workplace and a place that you have to mask constantly. Obviously, there's a big difference. Obviously, they're two opposite ends of the spectrum. And so I am coming to you guys to see your thoughts on that and what you have noticed. Is my hypothesis correct? What have you seen in your own life? Let's start with Brian.
Yeah, I don't think that you ever totally abandon masking.
Mhm.
I think you get better at learning when and where and who
Yeah.
that for. Um, I think I stay pretty true to myself at this stage in the game. I am what I am. I am who I am. Um, but I mean, it's tough. It's tough in general trying to. This is such a great show, Thomas. I don't even know where to begin. Earlier, I was telling you there's layers and layers and layers to this, and it is. I mean, it's like a big onion.
So can I
And the
start
more,
you down a path of a layer then?
yeah, go ahead.
So the reason I asked you to bring up your past jobs versus your job now is I know even your past in Parks and Recreation, you're much happier now than you were then. And I think now, mentally and emotionally, you have more freedom to be yourself. We have a more accepting environment than we ever have in the past. What are your
Yeah,
thoughts on that?
yeah.
Your
I mean,
jobs have been similar, mine are polar opposite. So I want to
that,
know if it's the same for you.
that's fair. I mean, down here in this building, we're under a lot of pressure every day. I mean, like for instance, today or this week, we have holiday this Friday, so we're off. But then we also have rain every day.
Right.
But
Right.
we also have a park system that doesn't care about budget. It doesn't care about when you're off. It doesn't care about any of that. The grass is still going to grow. Things are going to happen.
Right.
It's high stress all the time. But being here 20 years, I will say that this truly feeds my soul, and that's why I'm here. That's why I've stayed here during the tough times, was because of what it did to me for as a person. From a growth standpoint, being able
Mhm.
to grow up, so to speak, here as a Parks and Rec person. Um, I don't know, man.
So you and I think there's 6 years difference in our age, something like that. 5 or 6 years difference in our age. There's not much of a difference, but we are on the dividing line for the generation is 1984. I'm on the millennial side. You're on the Gen X side. So technically, even though we're 6 years apart, we're two separate generations, and we've seen separate things. Uh, let's go to the Gen Zer in the house, and that is Veronica. I believe you're Gen Z, right?
You could say that. I haven't identified which one yet. I was born in 99, so there's like a cutoff where I could be millennial
You
and
could be millennial,
I could
yeah.
be Gen Z. And also the fact that I have older siblings, I relate a lot to like millennial things. And then with a younger sister and just my year as well, I relate to a lot of Gen Z. So I'm in the middle. But I really like what Brian said about the masking. Like we're always going to be masking just in different degrees in our lives. And I
Mhm.
agree with that. I do feel with the role that I used to be prior to where I am now, I felt like there was more masking there than what I am now.
Right.
And it is like what you said, Thomas, where I feel more comfortable. I
Mhm.
feel more like I can be myself. And I think the reason why I did a lot more masking in my previous job was because of the different elements within that specific job title and like the duties that came with it. We were often working with like commissioners and often with the director of parks. So with that, and Brian also said like different stages of his life, like when we were younger, you're kind of like figuring things out. When you're kind of like in your 20s, 30s, I feel like that's when you have to like put on the mask and try to make a good impression wherever you're at. And then now when you're older, you kind of have like that, this is who I am. You accept me how I am and you kind of roll with it. So I'm definitely in that stage where I'm seeing, working with these people who have like grand titles and I always have to feel like I have to put on a mask and kind of change myself just so that I can put on like a good impression or making sure that, I'm crossing my T's and dotting my I's. So I feel like I'm doing more work with that mentally.
Okay. Yeah,
I have a question. I have a question for Veronica.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I have a question. I guess it relates to all of you guys. Describe to me what it feels like to go home and unmask. What does that feel like to you?
That's a good question.
That was actually my next thing that was going on, so that's perfect, Brian.
Yeah. Well, I will admit it's been a while since I've had to mask. Like I said, it was a lot more with my previous job title when I was with special events. But like thinking back, it felt like a weight off your shoulders.
Mm-hmm.
It felt like I could like relax, didn't have to like have like a posture. Like I feel like with the masking part, like you're really aware on how you look, on how you're talking, on how your email sounds. Like there's so many like little elements with that where you have to be so formal that it can come off as exhausting, especially if it's not something that
Definitely
you're naturally doing every single day. Like I'm not talking formally to my husband when I get home like that, like, hey, what's up? Like use slang. I eat right out of the tub versus here at work, I would be eating ice cream like in a bowl. Like, there's like different behaviors. And with that, there's not so much thinking behind it when I'm at home because I know I'm not going to be judged.
So, okay. I really want to answer in on this, but first, it's been a second for Savannah. So, Savannah, same question that Brian just asked. So, wait, Savannah, first, are you Gen Z or Gen Alpha? When does Gen Alpha?
I am Gen Z by 2 years. I'm so glad I made that cutoff.
Okay, gotcha. So, Savannah's still Gen Z, but she's close enough to Gen Alpha to give us an insight into it. So, Savannah, your thoughts. 17 years old, your thoughts. You, by your very nature, this is common among teenagers. Teenagers mask every day because it's a trying to fit in thing. But you're also in a professional environment that you've never been in before. So that adds an extra layer to the mask. So tell us the same question, Brian.
Okay. Honestly, I think my answer is just like a tiny bit different from Veronica's in like a different way. For me personally, I find it's more difficult to keep up the mask of what I need to be a camp counselor with all the kids and like to work camp with them and keep up that high energy, still like, making sure the kids aren't trying to hurt themselves or each other, but still being nice and not wanting to make them have a bad time. And it's a really tedious balance, and that's hard to keep up. Whereas when I'm doing the formal type of work that Veronica was talking about, it feels a lot more natural, I guess, to me. I end up really liking what I do when I take part in that, and I end up coming home feeling not that tired, feeling ready.
What are some examples of things that you come home feeling not tired, things that you're doing during the day?
For example, in the very recent past, we've had a ribbon cutting ceremony for the new Henry County Aquatic Center. Came home, even though I was out in the sun for the first half of the day, running around for the second half, came home and I was able to knock out some chores, get some college packing done, work through a lot of stuff. Whereas like this past week, I'd get back from camp, I'd take a bath and I'd pass out.
Right. But during that other time outside of camp, you were happy, you were excited, you were ready to go. And yet you don't want to stay with Parks and Rec. Okay, we're going to revisit that later. But anyway, all right, she thought it was part of the podcast. Nope, it's just part of my plan to get her to stay. So, yes, no, I'm trying. So I get what you're saying. Let's talk about the mask coming down. Brian, when, you know what, let's hear you. End of the day, your energy's drained. What do you do?
So, I'm embarrassed to tell you. I mean, here recently, I've just been going home, eating dinner around 5:30 with the family, in bed by 6:30, waiting for the Braves to come on, listening to the TV in the background, TikToking my brains out, trying to do anything.
Like 6 TikToks just last night.
Yeah. So like I'm doing mindless things that don't involve thinking about anything other than what's in front of me. I'll play, little games on my phone just to.
Like the one I sent you earlier today. You should play that.
Yeah, I'm gonna look into that. But when I really
made me download.
Yeah.
Yeah, he made me download it earlier.
Let me
today.
clarify. I did not make you download the game. As your supervisor, I cannot make you download a game on your phone. All right, go ahead, Brian.
But I think when I'm really taking the mask off, that's me by myself on a river, on an island for 2 nights by myself, just surviving.
What did it do to you to be in that type of space?
It's the biggest calming reset, I think. I think a lot of people use, some people like going to the mountains. I like going to the mountains. Some people like going to the beach. I like going to the beach. Some people like going to the lake. I just choose the river because there's not a lot of people doing a lot of recreational activities out there. It's a little more, alone for me. I like that piece of it. I don't know, and I like the challenge of it. It kind of, my mind shifts away from everything that I have to do Monday through Friday or Saturday through Sunday for most of us, because Parks and Rec seems like it never stops. Just shutting it off, staying in touch with my family. They know where I'm at, and just literally no shoes, no shirt, nowhere to go, nowhere to be. I am only worried about my next step, which is fishing, or am I hungry? Do I need to build a fire? Am I going to bed? How late am I going to sleep? That's truly unplugging for me, and leaving the phone at home, Thomas, which is something that some people need to learn to do.
I left my phone at home last time, though.
You got your phone.
I had to steal it from me.
You got grounded. You got grounded by Miss Donna. Miss Donna grounded you. Took your phone for the weekend.
What they're talking about is I took some days off a couple of weeks ago. Before I left that afternoon, they hid my phone and laptop from me and would not tell me where it was until I got back on the Sunday following.
Savannah,
it was the first time we did the math, the first time in 1,715 days that I have not done something with social media for Henry County Parks and Recreation.
Wow. Savannah. So me and Thomas, we hang out outside of work on occasion, right? Can't even sit down and eat dinner with this man. And he got to get
I've got to be able to respond. The rec centers are open. I have to be able to respond. That doesn't count.
I was driving him around this morning. The whole time he was on his phone. Whole time.
Yep.
We have things we have to do. The rec centers don't close till 9. I have to stay open. We've got events on the weekends. I got to be able to respond. Ryan is exaggerating. I may send a text or something.
I'm not exaggerating. And to be fair, Thomas, we all need time for ourselves here. That's what we're talking about, right?
It is. I'm being a little extra right now, but you're 100% right. And my wife would agree with you. In fact, I think the last time we had dinner together, Lainey, that's my wife, she was actually getting on to me about being on my phone to the point that Michelle took my phone away because I was on it so much. So I get it because we get so focused. That's another neurodivergent thing. And so for me, and I ask each and every one of you, because all of our brains are different. I don't know if you're neurodivergent. I don't know if you're neurotypical. Regardless, all of our brains are going to be different. And that's my point behind all this. All of our brains are going to be different. I tell you, when I do a lot of our political stuff, I do a lot of our volunteer management, a lot of our sponsors interactions. I do public relations communications. That's what I do for Parks and Rec. Yes, I'm the deputy administrator over the rec centers and the programs, but the biggest thing that I bring to the table is our public relations and community communications efforts. At least I think that's the biggest thing that I bring to the table. But I am responsible for that, which means that I'm on stages a lot. I'm on videos a lot. I'm dealing with elected officials a lot, directors a lot. And I cannot be myself in those environments. And myself, everybody in the office can tell you, myself it's energetic. It's literally running their videos on TikTok with me. that they've gotten without my permission, singing, running, doing all kind of crazy things. Obviously, I have to put up a mask though when I'm out doing the communication type things. And
what are you doing? What are you doing when you're not? What is? I don't think I've ever seen you unmask. I don't think I've ever seen you literally just sit on the couch, eat street tacos all weekend, and not answer a phone.
And that is on purpose, because I will hide from everybody when I finally do it. You've seen me at a conference when we were in Louisiana together. Brian and I were in Louisiana. We had back-to-back speaking engagements in Baton Rouge. We had Craig's podcast at the time that he was doing live from the conference. We had socials that night. I disappeared for hours. No one knows where I'm at. I'm not answering the phone when I'm disconnected. Because I sit in my room and I do nothing. I may play on my computer or my phone because it keeps my mind off of what I'm thinking about. But
it comes at the weirdest times of the day, though. Like literally, you're doing this at 2 or 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and nobody can get in touch with you. And then all the ladies in our office start worrying about you, and then I'm the one saying, "Man, he's just laying down."
It's when it happens. It happens quickly. It happens quickly, especially, and usually those 2 or 3 o'clock in the afternoons are after something like when we were in Jekyll. Veronica, you were in Jekyll. So Veronica, I don't know how you did it. The number of episodes that you did with Craig, I don't know how you did it.
But I will admit I was exhausted at the end. That was the moment where I did feel like the masking, because like you said, like you have to kind of put on
exactly
not like a performance, but like you
it
really
is a
hit the nail on the head.
It is a performance, yeah.
Yeah. Like you were surrounded with all these like elected officials and like directors. That's what I felt with in special events. Like I had to like elevate, you know?
Yeah, you're still showing who you are, but you're making sure to show the best part of who you are. And so I'm thinking of one particular time at conference. It was probably 1:30, 2 o'clock in the afternoon. I had left the conference area. I had already done 2 presentations that morning on top of everything else that I had going on. I sit on the board of trustees, so I'm sure I had something going on with the board of trustees for that. And I went, board of trustees is almost up. I just realized that. I am so happy. Anyway, different story. Keep going. I had gone back to my room and I just fell asleep. And then I came back up and I got with them later that afternoon. But during that time period, it's just when it happens, and it's usually after peak times where I did back-to-back presentations, for example. I kept that mask. I was physically and mentally exhausted by the time I was done and had to just disappear. And it's usually at times like that when it happens. And Brian, can you take over for just 1 second? Donald's calling me. Can you take over? Keep the position going. Keep it going. That just proves what you were saying.
Well, I kind of want to piggyback off what he was saying. Like that just proves like how draining that was. Like it got to the point where his body and his mind just needed to shut off and just like sleep to kind of get back that energy up. So I completely understand that. Like, because I felt that way too at Jekyll at the conference. Just constantly doing all these podcasts with Craig for the DPRS channel.
Yeah, it gets tough, especially when you're having to present and you're doing podcasts and you are having to mask up. I was thinking about something while y'all were talking, and I'm curious to hear from both of you about this, because now we're talking about mask on, mask off. But then you bring technology into play. You bring things like Instagram, Facebook, all these things where we've actually built our own custom mask. Like, how do you feel like that do you feel like that hyperinflates kind of where we're at today? Do you think because technology exists that everything moves so much faster, and good and bad, and we are masking up on social platform just to save face? What are your thoughts on that, Savannah?
Yeah, that is definitely a massive issue in today's generations, just today's society in general, not just the youth, but social media. Everyone wants to look like the best person they could possibly be. Best pictures, best trips, best moments, cool things. Look at this cool new music, cool new post. Oh, I get to go to all these things, special events. It shows none of the bad parts of life that everyone goes through. And it makes people who see all that positive and none of the negative, it makes them, feel like, okay, well, they need to push themselves to be that good. And then they start changing who they are or putting up a mask in order to be what no one really is.
You're right. Veronica, let me ask you this question about that along the same lines. Do you think that because of social media and how it's geared, do you think that makes it tougher on adults your age and older? Because it's always evolving. It's always something new. You guys are growing up with Instagram. In a couple of years, it's going to be something completely different. What are your thoughts?
I think it does make it tougher in a sense, just because we are going to get to a point where we're basically going to be left out, and we were in that prime Instagram of like fitting in. Oh, look at me, look at where I just went to. Like Savannah basically hit the nail on the head, like posting only the good and just kind of like shaping what you want other people to see about your life. Mm-hmm. So if we weren't able to do that anymore, yeah, it is going to be hard because some people kind of live in this virtual reality that they created.
Yeah.
I got one more question, and I'll give it back to you, Thomas. Do you think that it is more dangerous to put that information out there, or do you think it's more dangerous to go compare yourself to what someone else has created?
Ooh. Oh, that's a good one. I'd like to say a mix of both in their own ways. That might be a overall broad answer, but when you're putting only the best parts of your life out there, or just the best pictures and whatever, you are putting that expectation on yourself to live up to what you're putting out there. Mm-hmm. That's why with little kids who are getting social media way too young, they are ending up wanting makeup and stuff to be able to look like whatever filters they put on the pictures that they use. And it's been causing a massive mental health crisis in Gen Alpha, and it's not good. When we see kids ripe age of 10 running around with full faces of makeup, it's wild. But also on the other hand, when you're only consuming that and comparing yourself to that, then you feel like super insecure and like you're below what all the other people are putting out there. Like I myself, when I was in middle school, I didn't have social media of any sort, so I wasn't looking at what people were posting. But when I would hang out with people, it would always be only talking about the good, and no one was ever actually sharing the hard parts of their life at that point yet, because we were all so young. We didn't feel like it was like safe to talk to friends like that yet. Right. So that itself in its own way sort of did the same thing that social media was doing. And that like majorly harmed my self-image because I was just trying to be what everyone else was trying to be. So yeah, I think they're both equally bad in their own ways.
Wow.
Thomas, I think I read yesterday where I think like the UK or something banned social platforms from people under the age of 16.
Wow. That's crazy.
Yeah, I think it's 15. But yeah, I remember what you're seeing.
I think that's an extreme step. I could see how it might be beneficial in some areas. I think it is an extreme step.
Just because we're transitioning into a world that is going to rely on things like social media. It's going to rely on things like AI. And I think not introducing them to it young to a degree is going to handicap them later on. But again, that's a bigger debate that we don't have time for today. What I do want to do is end this. Guys, thank y'all. I'm sorry that I had to step away. We are opening an aquatic center on Saturday, and one of our waivers just went down. So I've got to fix that. So I am so very sorry for stepping away what it is. Thank y'all for picking up after me. Just final thing
that you want to say, starting with Brian, then Veronica, then Savannah? So final thing, Brian, that you want to leave everybody with.
The only thing in your way is yourself. So
Yeah.
if you're contemplating doing something, just do it.
Right. Powerful. Veronica.
I want to say what Dory said is just keep swimming. Don't get stuck. Just keep going.
Nice. Very nice. Savannah.
For me, I think it's really connected to what I was just talking about. Don't compare yourself to other people. Be your own person. Grow in who you are and figure out that rather than trying to be someone you're not.
Well, everybody, we're trying to achieve that. We are trying to create workspaces in which people can be who they actually are, where they don't have to pretend to be something else. If we can do that, we can change the work world forever. Thank you guys so much for coming on to Safe Spaces and Green Spaces. Stay tuned for our show right after this, featuring fine arts starting at 3 p.m. Jovi, take us out.
Technology isn't just changing devices, it's changing communities. It's changing how we connect, how we lead, and how we create experiences that bring people together. Because today's parks and recreation industry isn't only about fields, facilities, and programs. It's about innovation, smart systems, digital experiences, and the people transforming ideas into impact. Behind every thriving community, there are leaders embracing change. As technology evolves, parks and recreation professionals are discovering new ways to create safer spaces, stronger connections, and better experiences for everyone. This is where conversations meet innovation, where ideas become action, where parks and technology come together. Welcome to Parks and Tech Collective, streaming on DPRS Media Network.
In the parks and recreation industry, attention is limited, but influence is everything. Every day, thousands of parks and recreation professionals make critical decisions. Decisions on infrastructure, programs, technology, and vendors. The question is your brand part of that conversation? DPRS Media Network was built to answer that question. We are a dedicated media ecosystem focused exclusively on the parks and recreation industry in the United States. Through a network of daily and weekly shows, we inform, connect, and influence this audience. Our distribution spans multiple platforms: LinkedIn, Facebook, YouTube, X, Instagram, plus email campaigns, newsletters, podcasts, and live event coverage. This is not a single-channel strategy. It is a multi-platform media engine. Today, our network reaches over 214,000 connections, including 51,000 on LinkedIn, 64,000 on Facebook, nearly 40,000 email subscribers, and thousands more across podcast and social platforms. While some audiences overlap, our true value is not just reach, it is relevance. We speak directly to parks and recreation directors, program managers, and industry leaders, an audience that is highly targeted and actively engaged. Through DPRS Media Network, your brand integrates seamlessly into this ecosystem. Through sponsored show segments, targeted advertisement placements, podcast features, and host-read promotions, even custom-branded content. Not as interruptions, but as part of the conversation. And we don't just operate online. We attend over 15 major parks and recreation conventions each year, reaching more than 24,000 professionals in person. Through live shows, interviews, and on-site media coverage, we position our partners at the center of the industry. Every piece of content we produce is amplified across our entire network. Multiple shows, multiple hosts, multiple platforms. Your message doesn't appear once, it multiplies. This is more than advertising. It is strategic positioning within a trusted media network built specifically for the parks and recreation industry. If your goal is to reach decision makers, build credibility, and stay top of mind, then it's time to partner with DPRS Media Network. Apply for partnership or sponsorship today. Let's position your brand where the industry is already paying attention.